They say writers should read more, and I agree. Reading new things can spark new creativity and give you new examples of technique to try out. As writers, we can read for pure enjoyment, but I think we should challenge ourselves to read more intentionally. After all, we writers know firsthand how much work an author has likely poured into their manuscript. There are secrets to be decoded, craft to uncover. What I propose is that we engage in the art of active reading. The best analogy I have comes from sports. I am a former American football coach, and as a result, I try to approach everything I do, my job, my interpersonal communication, even my hobbies, in the same spirit of continual improvement. Essentially, active reading is my attempt at breaking down game film to become a better writer. It's the difference between passively watching a game unfold like a fan versus thinking like a coach or a player who is trying to improve their performance. I can read purely for entertainment, or I can read to be entertained while also gleaning new skills, techniques, or best practices that can help me get better. I recently saw that Ted Chiang, a famous science fiction short story writer, won the prestigious 2024 PEN/Malamud Prize. Ted Chiang has won tons of awards already, including 4 Hugo Awards, 4 Nebula Awards, and 6 Locus Awards. But most intriguing for me is that his work has appeared in Best American Short Stories, which is one of those fantasies I would play in my head as a kid, being anthologized in that collection. Having never read his work, I was eager to give it a shot. I checked out the audiobook of his short story collection called Exhalation and fired it up on a short road trip for work. The first story was called The Merchant and the Alchemists, a novelette where a merchant in Baghdad is shown a device that can throw him 20 years into the past, which entices him on a journey to try to save his wife from dying. While listening to this story, I started to observe my process of active reading in the way I was reacting to the text. At different points, I found myself trying to guess the direction of the plot, trying to articulate the motivations of the characters, and in turn anticipate their next moves, rather than let the story passively wash over me, which would have been easy because it was a rather compelling narrative. Instead, I focused on how I would discuss the story at a writer's roundtable, or how I would critique the story to the author himself. By the end, I had thoroughly enjoyed the story, and I had decided what I could take away from his narrative style and perhaps apply in my own work. By mentally cataloging what I liked, what choices Chiang made that I would not have made, etc., I felt I had learned something about the art of fiction. For example, Chiang's plotting is exceptional, especially how he weaves a complicated back-and-forth time travel story into a narrative form that is engaging and effortless. I enjoyed his use of the framing technique similar to the Arabian Nights. I also thought the language was a bit too plain for my taste, but on reflection, I realized that the prose was polished and unassuming as a counterpoint to the plot's twistiness. If the language had been more sophisticated, it would have made the story more exhausting and ultimately less engaging. When I go back and reread the work, I now know what to look for so I can study the language, structure, and presentation of the characters. Let's explore my 5-step process of active reading so you can try it next time you are inspired to break down an author's work like game film. Number 1. Identify what the author does well. Whether it is the terse style, flowery language, effortless prose, engaging characterization, lush setting, really whatever you like about the story, make note of that so you can go back and study it on a second read. Step 2. Describe the author's voice or style. You want to be able to explain it to fellow writers, especially in terms of how it affected your enjoyment of the piece. Sometimes it will be positive and complimentary, but sometimes if you don't like the story, it could be expressing what puts you off about the style. Step 3. Describe what the author does differently from you. Authors are unique and distinct from each other, so this should be something that you can tune into quickly. How is this author's approach to crafting scenes, describing characters, pacing action, or using imagery different from yours? Your goal is to be able to identify the differences and explain them to your peers. Step 4. Decide what, if any, technique you want to adopt. Does this author do something so great that you wish you could lift and land it into your stories? This is your chance to put new tools in your tool belt, so try to quantify what they do so well that you want to carry it forward into your fiction. Step 5. Reread the sections of the story that kept you most engaged. This could be your favorite sections, but whatever parts of the narrative grabbed you and wouldn't let you go, return to those and try to uncover why they were so riveting. The process of active reading can boost your own writing through intentionality. The process helps you essentially pan for gold in published works, and best of all, helps you articulate where a published story aligns with the writing voice you ultimately want. Pick a short story, anyone will do, and try it out today. You may be surprised at how much of your voice is still waiting to be discovered. See you next week. Start writing.